is what TNT works for, to bring you the superstars of monster truck racing. Here they go. Hi again, everyone. I'm Scott Douglas. We've chosen Louisville, Kentucky, the home of Churchill Downs and TNT Motorsports, for a change of pace this week here on Tuff Trax. What goes into putting on a monster truck race? We'll show you how this one came together in Freedom Hall, Louisville, Kentucky. The work starts nearly a year in advance at TNT's headquarters, where plans are made for obtaining facilities and dates, advertising, vehicle bookings, track building, tickets, and much more behind the scenes. Tom Carter of TNT Motorsports talks about some of those details.
There's more to a TNT event than it's seen on the surface. Things that you have to do is you've got to book your building, the first thing. And after that, you've got to select competitors for that show. Then you've got to have your competitors at a certain time to come in. You've got to have your track laid, and it's got to be dry. It can't be wet. There's got to be the building staffing. You've got to have ticket takers, ticket sellers. You've got to order tickets. You have security that you have to deal with, and also you've got to have ample parking for people to come to the building. It's a big job to get this done and get everything pulled together.
Details, details, details. One of the biggest jobs involves videotape. TNT has its own video editing suite, where editor Tim Ray produces more than 1,000 commercials every year that promote TNT events. TNT owns the most extensive video library in the sport of monster truck racing and truck and tractor pulling. Another big job involves the fantastic-looking T-shirts and caps that are sold at TNT events. Jim Lyon oversees the design, purchase, shipping, and sales of those items. Imagine the details involved when TNT handles hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of merchandise at nearly 200 events every year. Those T-shirts and caps, as well as TNT track equipment, are shipped to the events by a fleet of TNT vehicles. Making sure all the proper boxes and equipment get on the right trucks is a huge job in itself. These are just some of the many details that go into the making of a TNT event, and they all add up to a flawless performance. The dirty work, building tracks for the TNT Monster Truck Challenge, is a sophisticated process. Here's the doctor of dirt, the king of junk cars, TNT's track builder extraordinaire, Alan Jackson. We just call him AJ.
Once we get the dirt in, we come back here, and if we've got plenty of room, we leave about 40 feet behind our jump. So we start and measure off, and this is the center of the jump. We put us down a piece of tape, and then we dump the dirt in. So what we do, we put 8 loads of dirt in there. We put 4 behind that center line and 4 in the front, and then we take our dozer and make our jump. We try to make a tabletop jump. We used to make them rounded, and then the monster trucks got used to them being rounded, and they'd start over the jump, and then they'd open them wide open, and it wouldn't slow them down. The ideal for the jump is to slow them down, to keep them from getting up to much speed before they get to the cars. And if the buildings are not real long like this building is, we'd have, say, 30 feet between that jump and the set of the cars. But here, we're giving them 50 foot. And like when we got 30 foot, we would use 9 cars, and if we got 50 foot, we'd use 11 cars, because we know they're going to jump for us. And we like for them to land on the cars before they come off.
Those cars are important ingredients to a monster truck racing track. And not just any car will do. They've got to be large enough and sturdy enough to survive 2 or 3 nights of racing by the biggest and strongest monster trucks in the entire world.
What we try to do is get big cars like this, and we try to get the cars all with the tires on them. The ideal for that is to keep our cars level. But we've also, when we set them, we've got to take all the air out of the tires, so we flatten the tires. If you didn't flatten the tires, we found out, we did a show up north, when the truck hit, the air in the tires brings them right back up in the air, and it's just like them running over like running on a waterbed or something. It just throws them right up and down. So we had a lot of trouble with them getting out of control and getting off their course and wrecking. We found out, so we did a show down in Texas, a nightlife run, and before he had run, a guy had run and got sideways and pushed the top plumb down into the floorboard. So when nightlife run, his wheel went over in there, and it flipped him over on his top, and he caught on fire. So we decided to try to do something about that to stop it, so we started putting hay in the cars. And here, if you'll notice, we've put garbage bags over the hay, so if the hay busts, we can get the hay out without making a mess in the cars, because once we get rid of these cars, they won't take with the hay in it. And this hay, when the top gets smashed down, it stays kind of level with the top of the doors, makes it the course smoother for them to run on. And of course, if you notice, we've got all the glass out of the cars, so we won't have a mess in there like we're using rodeo dirt here. And then the glass won't pop out and get everywhere. And we take out all the headlights. We haven't got the taillights out of these yet, but we take out the taillights also. And then you can look in here, we haven't got our tires placed, but inside the trunks, we put a tire back up underneath this fender, and we put another one underneath this fender, and then we put one up underneath that back glass, and that holds this trunk up to keep from being such a hole after they run on it a while. Plus, if we put them under this fender, this back bends over and holds the tire in place, so if they take the trunk lid off, or they can land on that tire, and it'll stay in place. Then once we get them in there, we flip our springs on our trunks, so these trunk lids during the show won't pop up. They'll stay down.
Believe it or not, monster racing may soon face a crisis when it comes to junk cars. Because Americans are buying compact or mid-size vehicles these days, AJ predicts that he may run out of the full-size junkers in about 5 years. But leave it to AJ to come up with a workable solution.
We started to deal with station wagons. None of the monster trucks want to run over station wagons, because you can see how these trunks come back on these. Well, the station wagon would be solid like the top. So we come up with a deal on them. We just put our bucket on our loader and walk up there and smash the back of that station wagon down where it's got a trunk just like this. So we're going to have to come up with something on our combat cars. We'll probably put them radiator to radiator. And that way they'll have a trunk on this side and a trunk on that side to run over. That way we could use 2 instead of 1.
So AJ has averted a potential junk car catastrophe. But posing a never-ending struggle every week are the on-ramps. The slope of those ramps leading to the line of cars is the most critical element of an exciting monster truck race.
Because if we're outdoors and we leave, say, 200 foot between the 2 sets of cars, they'll jump 5 or 6 cars and never touch them. Even the slow trucks do. And some of the faster trucks will jump all 12 of them. Like USA 1 in Milwaukee jumped 12 cars and landed 30 feet past the 12. So if we'd had 17 there, he'd have probably jumped all of them. And you control all of that again to, like I said, your on-ramp. See, I can make that on-ramp steep and they'll jump farther. Or if I make that on-ramp long, well, they won't jump at all. They'll just run across the cars. Of course, then television won't get no exciting shots, and then they find somebody else to make the on-ramps.
Alan Jackson, the master craftsman of track building on the TNT Monster Truck Challenge. Just the right amount of water, a surveyor's sharp eye on those slopes, and a feathery touch in that forklift makes AJ and his crew indispensable to a great monster truck race. The superstars of monster truck racing call it the long haul. The driving from coast to coast to compete at 40 to 45 events every year on the TNT Monster Truck Challenge. In addition to the endless miles, there's the constant loading and unloading of the monster truck and its tires, and the never-ending maintenance on the engines and the suspensions. Life on the road is not easy, and it's different for every one of our superstars. The rather well-to-do USA 1 team travels in style with a comfortable hauler that encloses that expensive monster truck. But Jesse Berge relies on a more bumpy ride that fails to protect his plane for keeps. And some monster truck teams consist of wife and children, like the Nightlife team that is led by Dave Wysorek. Living in Nebraska, the Wysoreks will probably travel further than any other drivers in the course of the year as Dave continues to chase the World Championship on the TNT Monster Truck Challenge driving that Nightlife. Now, the Wysoreks do it because, yes, it's their living, but they also love it. And it is something that they can do as a family. Still, you know it's got to be tough on the Wysoreks, with 2 youngsters up and down the roads of this great country, day in and day out. On the other hand, some of the superstars travel alone. Gary Porter is one of the most popular drivers in the world, but for many days out of the year, he's all alone on the road. We spent a day on the road with Gary Porter in the state of New York. The road is tough, particularly on the New York Mini Series. 10 races, 16 days. And not only do you drive monster trucks, but you maintain your equipment. You're up the road, you're down the road, you're sleeping in strange motels, you may be sleeping back in the trailer, you're eating irregularly. It's tough on the road to maintain a top monster truck team. Here's how Gary Porter lives it.
What I like best about traveling, you know, the TNT Monster Truck Circuit is just seeing the country, going to the shows and from the shows, and then sometimes when I have time after the shows, doing the sightseeing, you know, in different cities and meeting the different type of people and just traveling up and down the interstates. A lot of times, you know, kids will come by and be waving and acknowledge to you that, you know, you're the fans and everything, and it really makes traveling a whole lot easier. I do 95% of the work on the truck back at the shop by myself, and then I do 99% of the shows by myself. And it's really hard at times because I'll be working, you know, sometimes 12 and 14 hours on the truck before I have it ready to leave, and then I'll have to drive, you know, maybe 800 to 1,000 miles to a show, and it really gets tiresome sometimes. So I have to do all the driving, and most of the times I'll travel, you know, 400 to 500 miles and stop and sleep a few hours and then get up and go again. And it can really be hard sometimes trying to do everything, by myself to cut expenses so I can spend money on the truck to try to stay competitive.
Part of winning a national points title is being able to survive these grueling road trips and still come out on top. And once you've made it to the event, there's no rest for the weary. Just ask a monster truck crew. Perhaps the toughest job of all is unloading those massive monster truck tires, wrestling them to the ground. These tires can weigh nearly 1,000 pounds apiece, so it's important to avoid getting squashed. Now, jacking up the weighty monster trucks, then struggling to line up the tires just right. Some trucks have other responsibilities that require loading and unloading several times. In Louisville, Gravedigger is on display at Bob Hook Chevrolet, the local sponsor for the event. All in all, traveling to and preparing trucks for the TNT Monster Truck Challenge is a long haul. Once the Gravedigger gets reloaded, the crew must negotiate around street lights, low-hanging wires and bridges to find their way back to Freedom Hall without taking those big tires off. Now, you know why monster trucks are transported with the smaller tires. Many of the superstars of monster truck racing believe that the most dangerous part of their job, actually racing the monster trucks, is the easiest part. After seeing all the work they do, I think you'll agree. A handful of trained professionals at TNT Motorsports take on the responsibility for actually staging the monster truck race at a TNT event. And those duties include registration and inspection of all monster trucks, then working the event at the start and at the finish line. Now, these people control the pace of the show. Right now, registration is taking place. Insurance credentials are checked, entry fees paid, and the appropriate passes are distributed. Then there's a blind draw to determine qualifying position. Most drivers prefer to qualify toward the end of the field, which allows the cars to become more smashed and even. And a late qualifying position is also desirable because drivers want to know how fast to go to be the quick qualifier. The inspection of monster trucks is critical. TNT demands safety in all aspects of its racing, and safety begins with the trucks themselves. Tech inspectors are looking for the appropriate shielding on engine parts that may come apart, especially clutch and flywheel assemblies. Shielding is also important around the transmissions and driveline assemblies. The inspection also looks for proper fuel lines, well-stored and protected batteries, and brakes in perfect working condition. The many shock absorbers on monster trucks are checked for leaks, and truck chassis or frames are closely scrutinized for cracks. And when all of this activity is done, Alan Goss lays down the law for the night of racing at the drivers' meeting. Now, it's much like an umpire meets with the managers at home plate prior to a baseball game. A monster truck drivers' meeting is TNT's chance to lay down the ground rules. Every ballpark is different, and so is every monster truck racing facility.
All right, put it back on the trailer, you're too light. This course is a little longer than Atlanta. There's no baby bales at the end. There's a big elephant door at the end. First one could get up there if you have to and let the other one out of the way. No, seriously. Let's stop here, okay? You got 135 feet. Got a lot of shut-in here.
Another job for the TNT tech crew is handling the all-important remote control radio kill switches during the race itself. It requires lots of experience, knowing a driver's and truck's habits, and good judgment. Army Armstrong finds out how this sophisticated bit of electronics works.
TNT is always concerned about safety in monster truck racing, and they developed two pieces of safety equipment. We're going to get Mike Snyder of the TNT Safety Committee to explain to us right now. Mike, what are you holding in your hands?
Army, this is something that is very unique to monster truck racing. These are remote control engine shutoffs, which we affectionately call the killers. And what this is an electronic switch that we install in the truck just before each run. There's a bracket inside the truck which is similar to a quick mount for a CB radio, something that as you plug the radio in, it hooks up your antenna and all your electrical connections and everything in one shot. They take this box, and the other half of this quick mount bracket is already installed in all the trucks. They take a box, they plug it into the truck. At that point, the box takes over the ignition system of the truck. The other half of the unit, which looks like a walkie-talkie that we stand at the end of the track and hold. And by the way, we have two different frequencies of these boxes. For the side-by-side racing, you wouldn't want to shut both trucks off at the same time. Although one may be in a situation where he's a runaway or whatever, and you may have to shut him off, the other truck may be in a situation where he needs power to recover from whatever situation he may be in. So we have two different frequencies of these boxes, and I stand at the track with looks like a walkie-talkie in each hand. And if it looks like either truck is either in a bad situation, or the main thing we use these for is if it looks like the truck is heading for the crowd. All I have to do is touch the button on the transmitter, and at that point, the engine's dead.
You know, we're really glad to be involved in this sport. As TNT Motorsports, safety is a priority.
Part of the excitement of being among the fans at a TNT monster truck race is knowing that the event is being taped for Tuff Trax, TNT's weekly television program. Talented people like our motorsports expert Army Armstrong bring the excitement of TNT Motorsports into your home. But while Army and the drivers are the people you see on Tuff Trax, there are plenty of equally important people behind the scenes, such as director Gary Franklin, here working with color commentator Chris Chapman as she tapes an open for Tuff Trax. The director's responsibility includes making sure that all of the excitement is captured on tape and coordinating the entire night of shooting.
We can do that if we can also get the go-go interview in at the same time. Yeah, let's get the go-go thing out of the way. We could always tomorrow do redo it with a different crowd in the quarterfinal. Okay. We're done with this. Yeah, let's put.
Mike Goss is the producer of Tuff Trax. He decides which shows to shoot, writes the scripts and develops feature story ideas, decides on the content of each show, and schedules what shows will air when. The producer will look ahead for an entire year and chart a course that best suits the viewer in terms of entertainment value. Now, one thing he's always looking for is a way to tell interesting stories about monster truck racing from week to week. Our goal on Tuff Trax is to convince you to tune in next week. The producer's most important job after the director has captured the images on tape is to oversee post-production, where all of the tape is edited every week into a one-hour show. It is also the job of both the producer and the director to look for the little things at a monster truck race that might interest the audience. For example, we've discovered in Freedom Hall that one of the junk cars absolutely refuses to be smashed down. Their idea is to put Army Armstrong inside that stubborn junk car and explain why. Rarely in television does work behind a microphone come out perfect the first time around. After several takes and close scrutiny by the producer and the director, Army has taped a perfect piece. As you can see, television isn't all glamorous. At a monster truck race, it can be dirty work all the way around, particularly when you're a cameraman at the end of a track. All over the country, each course is a little bit different, but you'll find here on Tuff Trax, we always have camera people stationed at the end of the track, and they have really come under the gun several times, like in Milwaukee, 10,000-pound monster trucks, 60 miles an hour, lots of close calls. Would you stand in Gravedigger's way? Smart move. Get out of the way. Now for some real fun. Chris and Army are very good at what they do, but here's one of those days.
Thanks, Scott. Here's what our pairings look like going into the quarterfinal. Sorry. Slow down, Chris. Thanks, Scott. Here's what our pairings... Thanks, Scott. here's what our pairings look like going into the quarterfinal matchups. We have USA 1, who got a bye round in the first round. Can I have just another second and look at these? Thanks, Scott. Here's what our pairings look like going into the quarterfinal round. We have USA 1, who had a bye run in the first round, facing off with Mad Dog. And then it's Jersey Outlaw, who beat the local favorite in the... Thanks, Scott. Here's what our roundup... This is not that hard, Chapman, do it. Okay. Thanks, Scott. Here's what our matchups look like going into the quarterfinal matchups. That's not... That's...
It's rolling. Anytime, Army.
This question of the week about the take two again. Ready? Still rolling?
Yeah.
This question of the week about the Red Man TNT All-American Pulling Series comes from Joseph Theroholt.
Therio. It's rolling. It's not too high.
Theroholt? Therio.
Therio.
Take 27.
What's happening?
Therio.
Anytime.
It's time for the big show to begin in Freedom Hall in Louisville, Kentucky. The fans are lined up nearly into the parking lot waiting to buy tickets. And the prices are reasonable enough at a TNT event so that the entire family can enjoy the best in motorsports entertainment. One of the first attractions inside is the souvenir table. Now there you can find high-quality T-shirts and ball caps depicting your favorite monster truck. There's a souvenir program as well. Those T-shirts and caps are something a fan can wear for a long time and boast to his friends that he saw the superstars of monster truck racing live. We asked souvenir sales manager Scott Decker when he's busiest during a TNT monster truck race and what items are hot. Here's what Scott had to say.
Stay busy until the show starts. Slacks off because of the interest inside. Intermission is good and the way out's good. While the show's going on, all the attention's inside the arena. Yeah, the neons, we got into those this summer and they did real well. I think that that's going to be the coming thing for the next year is the neon, the hot pink, especially in the lime green. But the neons go over real well. Plus some of the monster trucks, you know, have the nice flashy graphics, so people like that.
You know, TNT Motorsports has been an innovator in many ways, and, you know, with all the technological advances, this has to be one of my personal favorite innovations. The pit party that is now common to so many TNT Motorsports events in facilities that are able to handle it. There's Dennis Anderson, the Gravedigger, with some young fans right there signing autographs, and it's a chance for the youngsters from age 2 to 102 to get to meet their favorite monster truck stars, to get an autograph and talk about the superstars of monster truck racing, the great trucks. And of course, people love to get up there and get pictures made next to the tires. A guy like Mike Wine or John Kwasniewski always loves taking some time to talk to the fans, and that's what makes it such a neat rapport that monster truck racers have with their fans. Kid Rarig explaining there, and here you see Bennett Clark with some fans in Louisville at the pit party getting ready. Anywhere you go in terms of major league sports, whether it's an NFL game, a baseball game, or a NASCAR stock car race, the fans, and especially the kids, really love getting those autographs. And it's the same thing when you're dealing with the Major League of Monster Truck Racing and getting to see the superstars at a pit party. Here's another interesting aspect. Local television personalities. There's Felicia Ferguson, who hosts PM Magazine in Louisville, getting ready to pull in a tug-of-war. Now, there's actually a couple of fans who just came out to watch the monster trucks who have been teamed with either the TV side here or a bunch of radio disc jockeys. They're in a tug-of-war. The winner is going to get a trip to Hawaii. Can you believe it? One of the most important people at a monster truck race is the track announcer. He's entertaining and informative, and in Louisville, it's a 10-year veteran, the one and only Butch Krieger.
Up next, then, the man has been driving the Ford known as the Jersey Outlaw. The truck owned by Nick Rossi, and the gentleman is out of Pennsauken, New Jersey. Ladies and gentlemen, the land a couple weeks ago, you Ford fans would have been proud of this guy, because he was really up against everybody there. Let's give a nice little welcome to Mr. Mike Wine, ladies and gentlemen, the Jersey Outlaw, right there.
Now, sometimes the track announcer gets even more excited than the crowd, like Butch did on a previous night of racing when Gravedigger reached for the sky. Now, here's a monster truck fan who begged us to let her tell you how much fun she had at a TNT monster truck race.
TNT is the best tractor and truck pulls you're ever gonna see, and they're the best monster trucks around. If you ever get a chance to go see them. You'll love every minute of it.
We call them the second string, the additional entertainment at a TNT Motorsports event that fills in some of the gaps while the big stars, the monster trucks, cool down for the next round of racing. Our first substitute off the bench is Go-Go the Gorilla, TNT's official mascot, who is arriving in style in Freedom Hall. Go-Go is loved by children of all ages because of his lively antics. His favorite skit is to show the audience some of his walks that he collects from all across the country. Chris Chapman spends time with track announcer Butch Krieger and Go-Go.
A major attraction at every TNT Motorsport event is Go-Go the Gorilla. And with me now is Go-Go the Gorilla, but I need to explain something to you. Go-Go doesn't talk, but Butch Krieger, who is also the TNT track announcer, talks for Go-Go. Butch, tell me, what kind of program do you and Go-Go have at all these events?
Well, Go-Go was created originally more or less to kind of entertain the crowd when things are down and so forth in between, and to be a second show more or less during the evening. So Go-Go and I have been bosom buddies for many, many years on the circuit. We have been working together, but his main function is to be a comedian, more or less, and have a good time with the crowd. And as I said before, I speak for Go-Go. Go-Go and I have our own language, a lot of it being through signs and of just moving head and hand signs and so forth, which we've done for years.
Now let's talk about that. How can you keep in constant contact? Obviously, you're in the announcer's booth and he's on the floor. How do you all work that?
We generally sit down and I try to explain to him before the program starts what we want to do for the evening. We try to work out something. And generally, we know more or less during the night what's going to be happening. And, of course, in most of the arenas that we work in the sound systems well enough, when I call Go-Go's name, he hears me without any problem at all.
Well, I tell you what, Butch, I've always liked a man in first, so if you could hold this, I think
sure, I'll be more than happy to.
Come on, Go-Go, let's go. I don't like him.
Folks, that's the way it is at every town we go in.
Go-Go the Gorilla is a crowd favorite all across the United States at TNT Motorsports events. He's the captain of the second string. The rest of the team is made up of daring stunts, such as the Dynamite Lady. She lowers herself into a box and blows it to smithereens with a blast of real TNT. Then there's the Steel Wall of Death, a 60-mile-an-hour rock'em sock'em demolition derby. More TNT entertainment includes the Green Mamba, a jet car that lights up the night. And he'd be a lot of fun at a weenie roast. Sit back, buckle up, and take a deep breath. And hang on as TNT Motorsports gives you a glimpse of what you'll find at a live event.
called a steel wall crash, and the idea is the two cars that we have standing up on its back bumper to hit it at the correct speed, flip it over top of me in time to hit the second one and flip in.
Have you ever been hurt? It sounds kind of dangerous.
Well, several times, and we have a problem here tonight with the fact that the second car does not have a motor in it to make it flip, so I may end up as wearing it for a bow tie before it's over.